Hi, my name is Julia Hatmaker and I'm the Deputy Editor at Place Northwest. Today we're going to be discussing whether or not the UK is open for business. It's a pretty timely topic considering that we're filming this here at Cannes for MIPIM, the International Property Conference. Joining me today to discuss this topic is Thomas Pearson, the Head of Commercial Real Estate at JMW Solicitors, and Simon Maddox, a partner at JMW Solicitors' real estate team. So my first question is actually for you, Thomas. I'd like to know, what is the state of the UK market? And if you don't mind being specifically, I want to chat about the Northwest.
So we've seen in the lead up to coming out to MIPIM a high number of planning applications that have been successful. Take Manchester, for instance, a lot of towers coming through with the Renica schemes, etc. We've seen some really good movement in the office market within Liverpool. So there's some really good key indicators there that there's a buoyant market in our view. Equally, over the last few years, we've certainly seen a lot of interest in the logistics sector. And in that sector, demand's definitely outstripping supply. So within the Northwest market, as you look at it, and traditionally, and it's still the case now, it's certainly the case that there's better value for money in relation to real estate as an asset. And therefore, within a lot of sectors, it's returning better yields.
And you guys have seen that as well in your own business, in your own firm, correct?
We have, yeah, certainly. We've had growth within the department, within the firm, and we've also expanded. We've taken 21,000 square foot of offices and expanded into London and Liverpool in the last 3 years. So we've seen that situation happen, which is interesting because the office market is that whole discussion at the moment whether people will be returning to the office, will they not be returning to the office, or will they be using some sort of hybrid option like a hub and spoke or flex offices.
Well, obviously, it can't all be strengths. So what are some of the weaknesses that we're seeing in the UK market?
Well, obviously, we're coming out of a global pandemic, and that's had a significant impact on sort of project times, and I think that's a challenge that the market generally faces. I think on a broader perspective, we don't know sort of where the market's going to go. Obviously, at the moment, as Thomas has mentioned, we're in what feels like a fairly buoyant market, but to an extent, as I say, we're in an unknown territory, and we don't know where things are going to lead. I think sustainability is a big challenge for the market generally. I think obviously there's this huge push towards a sort of net zero environment, but I think I saw a stat the other day that there's sort of about 2.5 billion square feet of sort of office and retail that's going to need investment and sort of spend on infrastructure over the next 10 years. And I think the question is, where's that money going to come from? Are tenants and occupiers going to want to pay for it? So I think that's a sort of huge challenge for the market generally. Cost of materials, obviously, cost of materials are at an all-time high. We've seen a 30% rise in the cost of aluminium, a 28% rise in the cost of steel, and linked to what I've just said surrounding sustainability again. How if the cost of producing this net zero future is going to cost so much, how and who is going to pay for it?
We've got to bear in mind as well that the property market is cyclical. You know, Nationwide's figures on housing the other day was an 11% rise for the last 12 months in relation to housing. But the key question, much as I was optimistic about where we are, is where do we currently sit in the current cycle? Yeah. Interest rates are going up. So where is, are we still on boom at the moment? And when's the cycle going to come around again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, big key questions to be asking. One of the things I'm curious about is obviously there's been a lot of activity around free ports. And I just kind of wanted to get from you guys, your perspective as to what you think this means for international relationships with the UK and trade.
Free ports are sort of not a new concept to the UK. We've historically had free ports which were so with varying degrees of success through to 2012, and obviously recently free ports has become the watchword again as we're starting to with the new sort of designated custom zones. And I think on the face of it, obviously, it offers huge advantages from a tax perspective. Obviously, the Chancellor referenced the fact that not only was it as a post-Brexit boost to the economy, but also with a view to sort of levelling up and improving deprived areas and everything that goes with it. So I think on the face of it, huge advantages. I think there's some challenges that come with it. Obviously, there's an infrastructure issue. If we're going to have these free ports going forward, then they need the infrastructure to match. And there's also obviously a huge shortage in skilled workers in the UK. And I think, again, for a free port zone to work and thrive, you're going to need those. You're going to need that influx of skilled work. So, I do think there are challenges. I don't think the whole free port concept is necessarily that sort of silver bullet, but nevertheless, as I say, huge advantages, huge potential there. I think it's a watch this space position as to where we go going forward.
What do you think MIPIM shows us about the strength of the UK market? I mean, obviously we know that Manchester's not here right now, not on display. Is this going to be impacting the conference or the UK's potential to maximise its efforts here?
From my perspective, I look at it and I think Manchester is, yes, of course, that Manchester presence isn't here, but in some ways it is. I think Manchester is to an extent the sum of its parts. But there is still a huge showing here from the sort of Manchester presence, and I think that's only a good thing. As I say, we are the sum of Manchester's parts, and I don't think it's necessarily it's going to be as huge an impact as perhaps otherwise would be.
No, yeah, I agree. It comes down to the people, doesn't it? Bearing in mind, traditionally, and as is the case this year, when I look through the MIPIM attendees list, you've got sort of nearly a quarter of the attendees coming from the UK. Another quarter from France, and the others made up of the other countries. So there's a big presence. With Manchester not being there, query, does it give an opportunity to the likes of Newcastle and Liverpool who are taking stands? Possibly. I think definitely there will not be the focal point of a stand, and there will not be that coordinated effort in relation to presentations. But it's the people that make up Manchester, and as Simon said, the sum of all parts. So we are here to represent, as are many others, and I'm sure we'll give a very good showing.
I think the other thing is we are, as we've alluded to previously, coming out of a pandemic, and I think perhaps too much is almost being made of the fact that there isn't that Manchester presence here. Obviously, I think perhaps in 12 months' time, hopefully things will be very different. But we are still, everyone's finding their feet after the pandemic, and as I say, in a year's time, I'm sure they'll be back.
I'm glad that, Thomas, you brought up Liverpool and Newcastle, because obviously it does feel like this is their time to shine. So thinking of them, but also everyone who's come to MIPIM, how can we really maximise the opportunity that this conference brings?
I think there's a number of different facets to it. One is the conference itself and the exhibitions within Le Palais, affectionately known as the bunker, and that opportunity for people to coordinate and see what discussions are happening. And then there's the wider breadth of MIPIM and what it brings, and all of those people that network and connect. For us, both Simon and I as individuals have a similar sort of mentality on this, and the firm as well, in that we think there is a massive importance in the ability to connect people, interconnect our clients, interconnect our contacts, old and new. And that's how business is generated. And MIPIM's a fantastic example. We've got this pent up energy and demand from people to do it. And this is the first time on such a scale since the start of the pandemic that we've had so many people in commercial real estate in one place. So good's got to come from that. But also it's, MIPIM's a short period of time, it's 4 days, so it's what happens there afterwards. It's making sure that if there are key conversations had and key discussion points raised, that they carry on and they're followed through.
So it sounds like, in summary, the UK is open for business, and this is a great chance to really, showcase that and recruit investors and show them the good stuff that we have going on and why they should be investing.
We've got a buoyant market across the various sectors, and even those sectors such as offices where there are challenges. It's going to raise the bar in terms of what's sort of expected. So I think, I would 100% agree with that.
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you for watching. We'll have plenty more from Ken throughout the rest of this week, including more from our guys at JMW. We'll be discussing housing and offices, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss a single video.